Hey everybody, we are here today with a drummer, guitar player, and musician here in town, Scotty McBee. How you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty awesome. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah.
So you and I met at your jam, I'm sure, at your guys' jam. I don't know, 8 years ago or however long it was.
No doubt about it. I know that's where we met.
Yeah, yeah. And so your guys' jam is really unique. There's a lot of blues jams in town, and they kind of stay with that, shuffle funk, slow, and like 12 bars and stuff. And then you've got kind of the jazz jams that are a whole nother animal. But you guys do a really unique kind of thing. Like talk about your jam that you guys got going.
Well, yeah, it started 16 years ago when one of the previous owners of Jerry's Bait Shop approached a longtime buddy of mine, Justin Collette, and I about hosting a jam. We had this idea about it, and that it would be more of a party. It'd be basically a rock jam, but anything goes jam, which it did. Boy, it really was, especially back in the day. But so Justin and I started the jam then at the Lenexa location where it's still going. And it was just he and I, and we ran sound from the stage. And the idea was, since he and I both play drums, bass, guitar, and sing, and large repertoire, that all it would take is one person to sit in, and we'd be able to do that. So we started it, and it grew pretty well. And within a year, it was quite successful. And there was a guy named Brett Boulay, who you also know, who was coming out every week, and we were utilizing him. So, it became a thing where it's like, well, okay, there's this thing successful. So we approached said owner and said, hey, now that there's some revenue, can we, well, first of all, get a raise for ourselves and add a third member to the team, so we have a complete band essentially to back anybody on anything, because this guy that's been coming is really good. So Brett's been there ever since, and he still is.
Yeah.
So Brett and I have hosted jam night for eons, and then when Justin basically retired, for lack of a better term, that's where Craig Summey came in, and you interviewed him recently. He's probably still talking.
He talks a lot. He's got something to say though. He's a nice guy.
Captain Chaos. Yeah, I could talk conversationally, but I'm not the one to talk on the mic, and he is fantastic at it.
Yeah, so, he is very good on the mic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and he's a drummer and an entertainer, because Justin was the guy to talk on the mic.
Yeah.
So we needed that guy when Justin retired. So we brought in Craig, and so now for quite a while now, and we've had Brandon Miller for a bit, who he started coming to jam when he was like 13, and now he's touring the world.
Right.
But and has hosted his own jam, but and all that kind of stuff. But back to the crux of the question about the jam, we did not want it to be yet another blues jam, because there's already a ton of those, and I'm sorry, but 4 hours of doom would drive me nuts. Tore down again, and Stevie Ray clone after Stevie Ray clone, and again, I'm sorry, but just I like a vast repertoire. I come from the jazz background, my degree's in classical, but and rock and roll. I love rock and roll, and and we've added a ton of country. So we want to run the gamut. I think that's more interesting. It covers more ground. A lot more people can get involved, and they do,
Yeah, I think that your guys is a couple things that I'm always impressed by with your jam. The one is your guys' set list is absolutely monstrous. I mean, everybody can come up and for sure you guys pretty much have. I always notice this at our shows, that my buddy that I play with, he likes it when people tell him like for requests or something, they tell him an artist, and he's like, okay, well, we know this one, from James Taylor or some random person, and you guys do a really good job with that, where you guys have these little books that everybody could almost, I hate to say it, but almost like karaoke, you know, I mean, where it's, they can look through this huge list of stuff, and
we have lyrics for everything,
Yeah.
so they're not afraid to, I don't know the words, but we got them.
Yeah, and so that's one thing that's really cool about you guys, is that you guys have this huge number of songs that you play. So one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show is and the reason why on a lot of the shows we've been talking about open jams a lot, is that open jams are such a big part of the scene here. You know, there's a lot of them. There's 12 or 15 open jams a week, and a lot of people like going to them, and they're fairly well attended. And so all of us kind of have these things that we wish could happen at jams, or things that of why we go to this jam and not that, you know. And so, like, I've been trying to think of like a list of things that if I were running an open jam, what I would have. One that I love that you guys do, and this is proven when I walk up on stage and you're like seriously ready to hand me a chord, you know, and there's not this in between songs and you're like, wait, where's the power strip, and you're just boom boom boom
go.
And
Dead air sucks.
And you guys do that on purpose, obviously, right?
Oh yeah, it's all by design. We all have our roles to play, so, you know, besides obviously being a musician, which is my typical role in everything I do, but on that gig, you're stagehand too, and trying to keep that going, be prepared. You know, we've been doing it so long. You know, all those angles have been hit.
Yeah.
So, do you have a capo? Yes, I do. Do you have a pick? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
You know, there's 2 amps. There's, you know, because, you know, maybe in the early days, you know, we've already troubleshot all those things.
Yes.
So now we're ready.
Right.
And have been for years. And try and keep it rolling.
And that's like jam logistics, I guess, is kind of what we're talking about. And so I thought that was really cool, because I'll go to some other jams and there's a power strip around here somewhere, you know, and you're just like, all right, dude.
Disorganized.
You know?
Nope.
Yeah.
That's how you lose people.
Yeah. So that's one thing I love about your guys' stuff. And you know, this is the question where I'm gonna purposefully start getting myself in trouble. But I have this theory on that I didn't coin this phrase, but I thought of this phrase while doing the show, is the idea of cluelessness. And that's one of the things that probably annoys me the most in music now, after, you know, and one example of that is, you know, some chick comes on stage and she's like, okay, let's do this song, and you're like, what key? And she's like, well, I don't know, you know. That's one example of cluelessness, about knowing what what you need to know before you maybe should be getting on the stage right now. That's a whole, you know, elephant in the room kind of thing that a lot of us that go to jams are annoyed at. You know, not necessarily to get yourself in trouble, but I don't know if you'd be able to, you know, kind of speak on
this
that.
This is where you and I can get in trouble, and others like us, you know, the studied musician and all that kind of stuff. And everyone knows the Scotty look, the Scotty stare, whatever it is, which is a gut reaction. It's never personal, but, you know, I hear something, you know, not right, and and I get, you know, known for this. But which, you know, I sort of apologize for, because at the jam there's no place for it. It's one thing if you're working with fellow pros, but it shouldn't be on stage. Actually, most of the time with each other, if a mistake is made or whatever, for years now we have this joke where we'll just start looking around like what was that, you know, and it's like, that's our
to not call out any specific person.
Yeah, right? we just hear and go, what the, you know, like it's just, there's this mistake flying around. Yeah. But so that's the fun thing that we do. But nevertheless, with it's the jam is meant for, especially ours, for the layman, for you know, the general public, to be a rock star for a moment. You know? And that has always been the thing. So as much as I'm not as receptive to that, being this snobby musician, but Craig is very good about that, you know, and Justin was, you know, and Brett is a bit more tolerant in that regard than I am as well. So but I understand that is the thing. So it drives me nuts, and a big thing that we have to do is be able to take that curveball and hit it. Yeah. You know, if that cluelessness comes on stage and we get, you know, into the tune of, we've got to kind of save the day without like just completely stepping over
Yeah.
said person. But often if they miss a vocal entrance, I'll go to the mic and just kind of get them started and then back off.
Yeah.
And so, but Justin and I years ago coined the phrase "Jam Night Jedi," because you have to have this cat-like readiness and complete awareness of everything going on. It's not enough just to know what you're doing. You have to know what everyone else is doing, what's happening with the sound, and even what's happening in the bar to some degree. And
speaking of
total
Wednesday
awareness.
night,
oh yeah,
but
hey,
but,
you're talking about the when someone a male got too chemically amused and to say, well, anyway, that was dealt with quickly. And I gotta say, as far as Jerry's Bait Shop's concerned, in 16 years, every Wednesday and a lot of weekends, and I was playing in there even before 16 years. So however many hundreds and hundreds of times I played there, I've maybe seen 5 or 6 fights.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, and that's not
Those
very
are
many.
good
Yeah.
odds.
Yeah.
And every time dealt with.
Right.
So because, that's another thing about Jerry's Jam Night. It's really a family thing in terms of, not necessarily family, but however, the kids are great.
Yeah.
Love the kids coming to jam and spreading their wings and getting out of their shells. But it's everybody, there's an ebb and flow to it, but there's always some core group of people that are always there and have one another's back and make it this fun thing.
Yeah.
And I know you sense that and see that.
Sure.
And you've been coming long enough, you've probably seen the ebb and flow. Here's this bunch, and then every once in a while somebody comes back, hey, haven't seen you in forever. And always embraced. Hey, welcome home.
Yeah.
Like the last time you just came in, hadn't seen you in a while. I was like, there's Rob.
Yeah. So so with that idea of the cluelessness, that's where I get my son, and I love your word, the snobbish thing, because I feel that exact same way, and I'll just straight up admit it that I'm a little bit of a snob when it comes to things being quality, and so I'm at this place where even the jazz guys understand this idea that you've got to suck at this jam a little. When you first come out, you're gonna kind of suck for a couple times, and then you sort of end up getting it, and understanding that the jams are for these laymen, these kind of not weekend warrior, but the people that aren't 100% professionals, and so the idea of being sensitive to that and understanding that they're not million years practice like you are or anybody else, that you got to kind of give them some slack. But what I'm annoyed at is coming up with this idea of, is there a baseline of ability that you need to have before you get up at an open jam? And that's kind of a really, that's a loaded question. I've heard a lot of different answers to that.
Yeah.
How, some people would say, no, it's for the jammers and you need to do the Jedi thing of just, kind of fix it for them and adjust.
Technically, that's where we stand.
Yeah.
It should be for anyone, as annoying as it could be. But that's where you have to be ready to pounce with either just getting the host team back up to get the energy back, or call someone that is awesome. If there's a dull moment or whatever. And occasionally, someone not being a longtime pro, if you do it right, is fun.
Oh yeah.
And people eat it up because because they're not expected to be awesome. And so
then they surprise you a little bit
from
once
that
in a
angle.
while.
Well, those are my favorites. I mean, inevitably the person that comes up who you hadn't seen before, and they're like, I've done this and I've done this and I've done this and I'm so good and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, they're gonna suck.
Right.
Because if you're really that good, you have nothing to prove, and you're gonna prove it on stage. You're not gonna talk about it. So,
and then the modest ones sometimes come up and blow you out of the water.
They don't say a word. They come up and they're like, hey, do you guys care? Can I play? There's like this soft-spoken whatever, and then they get up on stage, they're a monster. And you're like, whoa! Mm-hmm. There was a guy, he's in L.A. now, a guy named Brett Eklund. Fantastic guitarist. He went out and started studying jazz. Now that he's primarily doing jazz. So, but I think he only came to jam once, but it was enough to make an impression.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, who is this guy? And he was even saying, I don't really know any songs. I just, so we just probably picked a blues, just, play on. And then it was like, whoa, this guy's for real, So that's one example of that.
Yeah.
There's tons of examples of the other, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So yeah, and I don't know. I'm the one. I don't remember who said it. It was somebody on the show that said this, but it was when I want to come at this argument of, because I've heard other guys talk about they're down in Mississippi or something, and they run it super hardcore, right? You get up and if you suck one time, they chop your ass, and they have right off the stage, and well, thanks for coming, but yeah, you need to go home. I mean, they'll tell you, right? You need to go home and practice, and they'll be real hardcore about it. And so, I don't mind that maybe, like maybe the foundation or something has that type of an attitude where they're going to kind of make you be decent, and they're not going to let you up there unless you're decent. And then I love that there's a span, if there's another one that is more for, beginnerish people and they're totally okay with it. And then there's other ones like when you go down the Blue Room and they, everybody down there just kind of, you get one jammer out of 4 nights that is, pretty average, and the rest of them are pretty good, you know, and so who totally deserve to be up there. But I just don't know, like one guy told me, so let's pretend a jam has this really hardcore attitude, or let's pretend that like literally all jams have this hardcore attitude. So let's say you had a guy who was 60 whatever years old, just retired, basically to play music, and basically I'm going to like stop him from his dream. And I'm like, that's a good argument. That's the best one I've ever heard. Is that how dare I do that, just because I want this music to be good.
Yeah, because it's
I don't
not
know
a
what to
gig.
say to that.
It's not a gig, it's a jam.
Yeah.
If I hired someone just on faith, and it was like, well, I'm not going to hire him again.
Right.
But
and now that's different, right?
That's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
And speaking of different ballgames, you bring up the jazz world. I mean, I spent most of, at least through college, post college for a long time. I mean, I played drums with Ida Macbeth for 19 years.
Wow.
And
I didn't know you played that long with her. Yeah. Wow.
And I mostly knew the jazz scene because in college you're actually studying the higher arts. And sorry, rock isn't one of them. As much as I'm a rock guy, and it is a whole different ball game. Jazz is immensely more difficult and involved, and you cannot set foot in public playing that music until you're ready.
Yeah.
Or you'll get eaten alive. My own jam experience on this kind of subject. I was freshman in college, and through junior high school and all that kind of stuff. Everybody, you're always first chair because, of course, people don't practice. So you're finally in this environment that you've been yearning for all this time, where everybody's a badass. That's a reason I went to a conservatory versus other schools. There's only certain spots available. It's not just another band. It's like, no, you have to earn your spot, keep your spot. I love that. But so I'm thinking, okay, I'm awesome. I went to. It's the Mulebach. It was the bar at the Mulebach. And my buddy Tony LaPuma at the time was playing bass with the McFadden brothers. Both Lonnie and Ronnie. And they were running essentially a jam. So I went down with some other friends. In fact, I think it was Matt Kane and Kathleen Holman, who were a few years advanced, but saw potential. So, hey, let's go sit in on this jam. So I go up and call Cherokee. Which is traditionally done at warp speed. Yeah,
300 or something,
which, I had pretty good chops and whatnot, but it was probably Lonnie, and it was like, really?
Yeah.
And so they just, beyond warp speed, and, and like with no hesitation, oh, here we go, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, bang.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
And I got eaten alive. Right.
You were playing drums.
I was
with
playing
them?
drums,
Yeah.
and you know, even a fairly decent drummer at 19, I got eaten alive. So
Yeah.
that could have gone one of two ways. I could have just, you know, I did tail between the legs, but just, okay, I'm demoralized, I'm done. Or I'm demoralized and I got work to do. So a year later, I joined their band.
Yeah. Yeah.
And played with them for a little bit. Played with Bill Crane's band for a little bit, which is also warp drive songs. So by the time I graduated college and started playing with Ida, there was only a couple, you know, fast tunes in there, and I was like, that's no problem. So
I love what you said right there, because I feel that exact same way. Where, I mean, there's a bunch of things you said there that was interesting. One, you took a moment where you got your butt handed to you, and then you, like you said, you went one of two ways. You could just shut down, or you can let it drive you. And you're at that moment, we're all going to leave the restaurant with our tail between our legs, but it's what happens afterwards, right?
No doubt about it.
And there's a lot of, I think that happens a lot with our students that we have now, where they're gonna pick this one over that one, you know, and they're just gonna be like, well, I guess music just isn't for me, and they're gonna go that route. And you know, realizing that the awesome thing is that nothing in life that's worth having is easy, you know, and that the reason why this is so awesome is because you spend 32 years on it, and then all of a sudden you go just wax everybody, but you've done all the work, you know, you've spent the time. And that's what people don't understand about classical music, is classical music, while you're doing it, is not fun. It's not fun at all, right? I mean, you're sitting here playing these two measures like 40 times in a row, but then when you can play the whole song, boy, it gets really fun. And they don't know that because they've never gotten to this spot,
right? Or
they don't want to. They don't want to go through that whole thing.
They're not willing. They're not willing. And I told you when you asked about this interview, I'll probably make enemies, but the sloth that is the American musician of the last at least 70 years. It's just gotten exponentially lower and lower standards. And, you know, that's not the background I come from. I had hard-ass teachers, and I've personally gone back and thanked each and every one of them for, you know, me going, do I really got to do this? And they're, but being as I wanted to get there bad enough, was yes, sir. And I did, and I thank them, right? When people ask, you know, how did you get, you know, how do you play like that? And I was like, well, I did this, and this, and this.
Yeah.
Every day for years, and still do. They don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
You know, and especially when they say, well, I'm going to come study with you, you know, whether it be a kid or an adult, you know, and then they find out, and it's like, I'm not kidding, and they don't last long.
Right.
I have a lot of what I call retreads, which are adults who didn't study the first time and realize how limited they are. It's like, okay, well, I'm serious now, because I want to be able to do this, and you're saying this is what it takes. Okay. So they come back and it's like, no, they find out why they didn't work hard the first time. So for anybody that thinks musicians are sitting around on their butt, because now, as a full-time professional, let's not forget this is music business. So, I mean, from the time I woke up before even coming here, I've been just in full business mode. And as soon as we're done, here's okay.
What calls do I gotta make? Emails, whatever.
It's nonstop from the time you wake up, and then eventually go play your gig that's been in the making for perhaps months. Right. And all people see is the end result of a ton of work. Right. The fun part. Right. And maybe they see the gear portion, which I hate gear, but it's just part of the deal. You know, if you're not if you don't have the means and clout to have people set up your gear for you, you're doing it. You know,
I know a lot of I've joked about this too, how a lot of different instruments tend to make you certain personalities. It's kind of a weird thing, like in football, where the prima donna wide receivers, right, and then the leader quarterback, and then the kind of go with the flow alignment, you know. And I think a lot of musicians like viola, cello, and violin have that kind of a thing in orchestra. You know, laid back guys are the cello players, prima donnas are the violins, etc. Well, guitar players, I have the worst people in all of music about obsessing about your equipment is guitar players. They're the worst. You know, they're always, you know,
Seems
talking
to be.
about your,
Yeah.
oh, well, this guitar, and oh, how many volts does your, you know, Fender have, you know, and they're just, you know.
Yeah.
But what I always find funny is that they're way more interested in their equipment than the practicing, you know, and that's kind of one
Typically,
thing.
yeah.
Typical not all guitar players,
Right.
obviously, but a lot of people tend to want the purple violin because it's so cool, but then they don't do any work, and you can hand them a Stradivari and they still suck.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not going to help you, you know.
Yeah.
And a really great player can be handed a piece of crap and then they shred your face off, you know. And so
No doubt about it.
yeah, and I'm just always fascinated by that. I'm nervous when I have all this, you know, all these pedals and my pickup on my instrument, on my violin and stuff. I'm nervous to give that to even during lesson, to show it to an 8th grader, for example. I'm nervous to do that because I want to keep them learning how to actually play.
Yeah.
Then maybe a year later, when they can really play something, then show them all these little fun, stupid little toys that you can do, but they go to the toys first, you know, and then
Yeah.
they don't, you know.
That is, I mean, that's a different mindset. And again, we're talking about musician versus, I don't know. You're right. I'll get in a gear discussion with people because it's just part of our, you know, we do occasionally like to talk gear, but
Yeah.
ultimately, I'm so absolutely with you on this because spending all this time obsessing on gear and tone, even tone.
Yeah, tone
I
can
can't.
get- yeah.
I can't argue with that because good tone is awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't even obsess upon that. I'm like, yeah, but can you play? Because when it's time to play, that's to me all that matters.
Do you know what a flat 5 is? You
Yeah,
know, I mean, do all
well,
that kind
yeah,
of
and
stuff, you know, I mean.
Yeah, all the actual you know, study.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing. But yeah, when I see somebody with a pristine piece of gear, I'm like, that better be brand new or you don't get out much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I'll get crap about, you know, even my equipment being dirty. And it's like, man, I just, you know, I don't got time. You know,
This is a player's guitar.
well,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, first of all, I've had that since I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
You know, but you
Yeah.
know, you get set up, you play, you tear down, and go home so you can get ready for whatever's next. I mean, I'm not gonna sit there and do all of those
Yeah.
things. I don't know, but that's just me. You know.
Yeah. On that same kind of note, I guess, is that one of my, I know you and I kind of hit it off right away because I hate describing other people's playing because I usually get myself in trouble. Like I end up insulting them while I'm trying to you know. But I think I think I'm pretty close on this one where I think you and I are similar where our head is trained, right? We've done a lot of, but in here is rock, you know, and a lot of guys a couple bands that remind me of that is maybe like a Steely Dan, you know, those guys are trained, but they're rock guys. Dream Theater is obviously one of them. Maybe somebody like a Fish or something, you know, where they're trained, and I think you and I are very similar in that, where we like all this other rock kind of stuff, but we like for myself, I guess, I have to like play intellectually or else like my head explodes, you know. Usually it's the other way. You start doing intellectual stuff and your head explodes. But one of my favorite stories to think about with you and I is I came to your jam, and I usually call random stuff for you guys, maybe even that isn't in the book. But so one time we got up and played No Rain, right, Blind Melon. And so we started to do the back and forth, you know, we did a big jam and we did the call and answer kind of stuff, which was really fun. Well, then one time, I can't remember which one of us started it, but one of us like threw Jingle Bells in the middle, right? And then the other one came back with like Star Wars, right? And then like I did like Flintstones, and then you did Scooby Doo or so, you know, or the you know. And so, but we were like quoting songs back and forth to each other, which I had never seen anybody do that. I've heard people quote stuff, obviously,
which means not only do you have to have the ear training, but the wherewithal. Not all of those tunes are major or minor.
Yes.
And depending on where they sit, so you might have to go modal with them, you know, and so it's like, well, really, okay, so if we're in this key, but I need to play this Mixolydian line, I got to put it here.
Yeah.
You know,
and the rhythm to fit too.
And the rhythm to fit,
yeah.
and all of those things. Yeah, I love as a mental exercise. And especially then in the heat of battle, like we do, because you're under this heightened pressure as well.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, Rolodex,
Yeah.
You know. So a combination of even coming up with the tune in real time, coming up with the tune, figuring out what mode it's going to be compared to what key is around us, and even if those harmonic changes are moving, it's like okay, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. But this one will over these chords. You know, that's the kind of stuff that non-trained musicians, I don't think they realize the processes that are going on.
It's hard.
At lightning speed. Right?
Yeah, and that stuff is so fun to do. I mean, that's what I guess I'm getting at of when you're playing something, and this is a silly thing to say, but we're like so bored that we like have to do something like that, you know?
Right.
It's funny to me.
I know my regular stuff. I'm tired of it.
You know, and, well, so we did that, you know, maybe a couple times where we started to do the Star Wars stuff back and forth or whatever. Well, then one time I got the crazy idea to bring in some Christmas tunes, right?
That was a blast.
So it was pretty fun, and so I had this big list of every December. I just go through and use that as my practice session for the month, and I go through and try them in different keys and up on my neck and just do like technique exercises on these fun songs. And there's like 35 like good Christmas songs. So I bring this list in, and so I'm like, okay, so this time we're gonna do No Rain, but we're gonna go back and forth with Christmas songs. So you know I don't remember exactly which ones they were, but you were like Frosty to me, and then I'm like Sleigh Ride to you, and you're like Joy to the World, and I'm like, okay, well here's Rocking Around the Christmas Tree, here's you know, and that was I think one time, maybe the first time, we kind of fumbled it a little bit, but I remember the second time was killer. Like we just, you know, and we nailed like every one, and sometimes the beat is like a straight, but the thing is swung, all right? Yes. Or it's in 3 and you got to put it in 4, and like, you know, so it's kind of hard. But that was one of my favorite things to think about with you, is just doing that is just insanely fun, you know.
In our nerdy way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now that I think about it, it's like having that list. You were saying in the month of December you put together that list, and you know we both teach. I'm trying to teach less because the aforementioned. I'm sick of people that don't want to learn.
Yeah.
But using all of those simple melodies of Christmas tunes as ear training, and you get solfege involved, and either numbers or solfege or whatever to work with students on. You know, that's a nice list, all of those things, you know. And I know on violin, I mean, sometimes what is the Suzuki method can be employed.
Oh, definitely,
you know?
Yeah. Just heavy ear training.
Heavy ear training,
you know, yeah.
You know, and I like the you know, ear training with traditional. You know, I don't think any one method is good enough. That's why you study with multiple teachers anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
Eventually, you culminate. You know, okay, I got this from them. I got this from them. You know, to become who you are, and then you know pass that on to the next. But yeah,
in orchestra, it's impossible to play an orchestra if you don't sight read it. You just can't. You know, I mean, and short of a Stevie Wonder person, you know, blind guy who's just a freak, you know, that can just memorize stuff crazy. But at the same time, school orchestra, it's pretty much all sight reading, and what we just talked about, sight readers cannot do that.
Right.
They're no way, and especially if they've never like improved or whatever, I mean.
Few have both.
Yeah.
And they're amazing.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the jazzers have both.
Yeah, definitely. They've been trained to.
They could read, play in the big band, yet when it comes solo time, they can, solo over a complex harmonic progression.
Right.
But, I'm more of the academic variety. Of course, I could sight read because my serious training in that regard is in percussion. So, non-pitched percussion specifically, not worried about it. I can read all of that. A little bit tougher when it gets into tonal things,
Sure.
marimba and such.
Oh yeah.
And of course it's been years, and I don't use that at all. So, but I remember to pass piano proficiency, there's all these different angles of it. So the more hardcore classical people come in, they'd stick the music in front of them and they just play it, blah, 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 no problem.
Yeah.
And the rest of us are like, geez, until we have it memorized, and then the other parts of where they're saying, okay, play play these chords and play something against you, and that's where we excelled. And then we're putting all these alt voicings in and all this fun stuff on these. But anyway,
so
I love nerd stuff.
I know, I am a complete music nerd. But okay, so what I was thinking about the other day is, so we've got, if you talk about kind of the levels of musician, there's a lot of the blues guys, like the jammer blues guys, that learn they've got their kind of 4 keys, their 3, they're funky, shuffle, slow, styles, and then now they can literally play 800 blues song, with 3 styles and 4 different keys, A, D, G, C,
Right.
And so I was trying to think of, because the jazz guys are on a whole different, they're on a whole different level, but I was thinking about what would be the next step up for them. And one thing that came to mind is when I played a song, what was the song called? It was like maybe like Avalon, or there's this handful of jazz tunes that are like maybe All of Me might fall in that category, where there's like maybe 9 chords in that song, 8 different chords, E7, C, and so I was wondering if and they're all majors and minors. I don't think there's even any diminished in All of Me either.
Yeah, I mean, they're usually a series of 2 5s.
Right, it's a series of 2 5s. But I guess I'm thinking of like how many chords would you have to learn? Because a lot of blues guys do know a couple minors. They'll play minor blues as well. And so would that be a good like middle ground if we're gonna urge some of these blues guys that maybe if they practice a little bit could do an All of Me, and like a stair step kind of spot before they get to the Cherokee and the stupid giant steps.
I've taken Troubadour Retrievers out on things where we need to play like a dinner set. So I'll handpick some jazz tunes that are easy enough that all of us, myself included, because I'm on guitar. Because the drum, I get hang with about anybody in the jazz world, because that's where my hardcore training is. So I know just enough to play some jazz on guitar.
Yeah.
And then I'd usually hire a sax player, to really take the brunt of the soloing, and we'd do our best. But yes, there's some of that repertoire. Obviously, all blues, so you're already starting with a blues.
Right.
But
or something like a blue monk would be easy for him, right? You just go to B flat, swing blues, and then you're
all these tunes with blue in the title, blue bossa.
Exactly.
Because just yesterday I was watching our good friend Candace Hill, pan player, and she's got these great guys with her, Joe Michelon and Max Berry, but they were playing blue bossa, and it's ultimately harmonically a simple tune.
Yeah.
So some of those little ingredients that us rock blues guys can are limited to, you can make that work on those changes.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not flying either.
Right. Yeah. It's not.
And the bosses are the bosses are good because it's not it doesn't have the swing going, so you don't have to deal with that.
Right.
So essentially, straight like most rock tunes.
Right.
So rhythmically,
I had a lot of easier time on the Latins than I did
Yeah.
the swing at first, because
Right.
you got that march kind of stuff that I'm so used to doing.
Totally.
And da da dee da 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 da. I mean, everything's just super even, and even some funky stuff can be. It's kind of a Latin-y funk, kind of like sometimes when I played stuff like Chameleon or something, it
Yeah.
would be kind of a Latin funk. It wasn't super swingy like Superstition. Superstition is kind of a swingier funk, and I would think some of those guys would be able to handle some of the Latin stuff more than they think.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
So I've just been
And
thinking
certain
about
simple blues is to learn a different turnaround. Freddie the Freeloaders,
Yeah.
Instead of going to the 5, it goes to this flat 7 thing, and so just for once to learn, okay, I have to get out of the box
Yeah.
for this one chord,
Yes.
right? And it's got to start somewhere. As long as you understand, since blues guys are just going to be primarily playing pentatonics, as do I most of the time.
Yeah.
But first of all, don't play a minor pentatonic over a clearly major tune. Please switch to a major pentatonic. All you got to do is move 3 frets. But anyway.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because then a lot of these songs have all of these set regular DOMs, minor and major, and then they've got that one B flat diminished. Well, you go learn one chord, step it up, learn the one chord, right, and then now you can sort of play the song.
Yeah.
And so like I've just been wishing that's where, like we were talking about earlier, of somebody looks at you and they got their jaw down, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so. I'm like, yeah, well, I just kind of made myself learn this, I just step it up and sucked it up and learn this at least one chord today. I mean, you could do a chord a day or so. I mean, you don't have to go giant steps today. You learn one chord and now you've got a new thing.
It is a daily thing. 'Cause I think people want to jump in so much where it's like, well, I'll practice, 5 hours today, but then not touch the instrument for a week. And it's like, that's not how learning works. You're served better learning any skill in any trade, doing it 5 minutes.
Yes.
Every day. Right?
It's repetition, right?
It's the dailiness of it and all that kind of stuff. That's how we get.
Yeah.
That's how we learn. So,
that takes more discipline, though,
and
'cause it's
retain.
more times that you have to
It takes discipline.
Yeah.
But but art and discipline as terms aren't that removed from one another. If you look them up, they're quite related. So
we think of like the accountants or something as these left brain people, and they're separate from these creative musicians.
Well, they separate athletics as well, but it's the same thing. It's still discipline. Ancient Greeks figured that out a long time ago. They put athletics and art, they kind of lumped them together. That really makes more sense, because we're obsessed in our society with the physical nature of things. And so, of course, playing or the physical aspects of athletics, which is obviously there in both disciplines, but it's of the mind. Let's and I think being hesitant to train the mind instead of the body, not instead of, but to include it as such an important thing. Everything that we're talking about, that we're having fun with the music stuff, it's of the mind.
Yeah.
We have spent the time and learned the facility enough for the mind to come out.
Right.
As does,
because that's muscle memory.
Yeah.
Right. We've done those. Jordan, there's a reason why he hits 90% free throws. He's done he's done 30,000.
But as does the athlete, because especially, it's also not forget, most of the time in music it's a team sport. Well, team sports, there's all those things that you have to not only be personally responsible for, but reacting to all kinds of variables. They call baseball the thinking man's game, but there is all those different things. So of course there's the physical aspect to it, but the ball comes to you and you get it. What do you do with it?
Yeah.
I caught the ball. there's, you know, and if this happens, if this happens, if this happens, and that's those same processes, you know, which is why they go out there and take ground ball,
Yeah.
batting gauge, you know, golf, technique, right?
Golf is ultimate technique sport.
Absolutely,
for sure, yeah.
You know, think of like brute strength. It's not brute strength. You know, certainly strength will play a role, but it's technique that is successful.
And that precision, that only comes one way.
Yeah.
You guys do it a million times, and you're concentrating, you're using your brain, you know,
And tennis,
Right.
you know, there's a book that I love, The Inner Game of Music, that I encourage every musician to read, but it started with The Inner Game of Tennis.
Yeah.
You know, but think about like Roger Federer. You know, he beats opponents before they even play because he's so headstrong and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, if somebody loses their cool, they're gone.
Yeah.
You know, he's just going to wipe them up, you know, because he's technically sound and, you know, he has this inner game.
Yeah, right.
So, and so much of music making is inner game.
Yeah.
So I was introduced to that book in college. So, you know, I encourage all of my students or friends or whatever, you know, it's a good read.
Yeah, I like that, man.
So Timothy Galloway is the author of one of them.
That's cool, man. So one big question to kind of wrap up here that we could probably talk forever on, but you mentioned earlier about doing kind of the other stuff, the making the calls, and kind of this is another thing that I've been really obsessed with music, is that a big part of it is learning your actual craft of sitting there doing the practicing in your practice room. But the one thing that has always been annoying to me about like college, for example, is that when I got out, you know, what I knew, I always felt that like when, like say you go into public school, most of the people that come into public school and teach, their playing ability is so far beyond what they really need for this job. And what they really need more training on is like learning how to come at a student and how to discipline them. And
Pedagogy.
so the pedagogy stuff. And so I felt the same way when I came out and started gigging, is that I felt like, you know, I was, you know, overqualified is a silly thing to say, but I felt like my playing ability was plenty of what I needed. What I was really confused at is like when like I'm dealing with a bandmate, and how do I deal with that bandmate, like emotionally and conversationally, and like when in college you'd ask a string quartet, like you don't even ask if we're gonna rehearse. Yeah, we're gonna, you know, I mean that it's breathing, you know, I mean you don't even ask that question. You ask when, not if. You go talk to some country guys, and they're like, oh yeah, you know, we'll just go, you know, we'll just pick all 3-chord tunes, and then we'll just go wing it, you know, and so that was a lot of the kinds of stuff that took me a long time, the being flexible kinds of stuff, and how many decisions you got to make being in a band, like where are we going to go look for gigs, right? Who is going to talk on this mic, right? What are we going to wear to the shows? Like, are we going to have are we going to make a website? You know, who's going to advertise? What songs are we going to play? You know, there's like these 1,000 decisions that we never had to make in classical, right? There's all decided.
Yeah.
And then also like the idea of the business side of music, of my dad, the accountant, you know, he's like, so how much did you make last year? And I'm like, you know, because I didn't ever make a spreadsheet. I didn't, you know, keep track of my gigs. I didn't, when I'm up on stage, he's like, how do you tell jokes to the audience to get them to, you know, have eyes to the stage? How do you come at this bar owner? All that kind of stuff is
all the business
talk about
stuff.
That.
All the business stuff I'm still trying to work on, because I was fortunate through most of my professional full-time life, you know, playing with Ida Macbeth, you know, that was all her stuff. You know, here's where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to wear this, so I show up and, you know, do it, get paid, and go home. That, you know, I realize now how easy that was, and I've gone back and thanked her. You know, thank you for all the work, you know, and every band leader that I play with now, because I do a lot of one-offs as a hired gun because of the aforementioned repertoire and versatility. But I thank the band leader at the end of the night for the work, because I know that it didn't just magically appear. So ever since, you know, basically starting this brand that is Troubadour Retrievers, which kind of grew out of Jerry's Jam Night, thrown into the stuff that I have no skill set for. College didn't teach me music business.
Yes.
So you're right. Any music degree, especially a performance one. I mean, there's probably a music business degree at this point, but it's like, to be complete, you got to have that in there.
Yeah.
I'd say more studio as well, and that's, boy, we could talk for hours on studio, because that's my real passion.
Yeah.
Is studio stuff, and now running my own studio as well. But boy, talk about time consumption. But yeah, I'm just having to learn, because somebody's got to do it, right? And you know, what did I say towards the beginning? The sloth of the modern musician.
Yeah.
They don't want to do a lot of things. I don't want to do it either.
Yeah.
But my livelihood does depend upon it. So somebody's got to do it. There we go. So just kind of started figuring out, okay, how am I going to do all these things? And my girlfriend, Nicole, did tons. And she's the one that kind of encouraged me, okay, maybe you should like be more in charge of your own destiny and start creating these things. And she's been right in every respect, because it's broadened, you know, my base of network, you know, all over the place, you know, but yeah, as far as hands-on work, I mean, she built the Troubadour Retrievers website.
Yeah.
All those lyrics that are there, she made those lyrics. Oh yeah, so
Good
it's
for
still,
her.
oh,
That's
absolutely.
a nice thing to her.
Oh, it's unbelievable how much she's done. And at the time that she was doing all this stuff, I felt that nobody was appreciating that. I was the only one that was, you know, privy to all that. And so eventually she got some thanks, you know, but we're talking like stupid amounts of work.
Yeah.
And so
that's great. That
kudos
she
to
did
her,
that.
absolutely. So I can't take credit, but you know, so you know, that's what kind of started the process. I guess it's been about 6 years since that brand, you know, and then in the time being, Beauty and the McBeast with Crystal Gatewood. But you know, ultimately in that product, she's doing most of that behind the scenes business. I'm doing the studio stuff because we're writing and recording an album to be released hopefully by Christmas. In fact, I just had a session last night, brought in a flautist. It was awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I'm going to have you back.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it was fun to do that.
Yeah, you're already on one, but there's another one that get you in on violin on. But so that product, around the same time that basically some jazz clubs were dying, which was just kind of killed my livelihood. Had to start creating stuff. So Lonnie Miller approached me about doing this Special Forces, a tribute to 38 Special. So doing that project as well. And one thing college did prepare me for, specifically my professor, Dr. Lawrence Captain, the first thing he said to me was like, you need to buy a day planner. Which back then was paper, you know.
Oh, right,
and now, of course, digital. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
In fact, I have everyone's calendars. Okay, so-and-so, I can't book this gig because so-and-so's.
Yes.
You know, but Troubadour Retrievers versus any other, I call it a brand. We're a different lineup every gig.
Yeah, right.
We're all in a million bands. We're all longtime pros. We all have a huge repertoire.
Right.
So, you know, you were talking about rehearsing. We've never rehearsed, not once.
Yeah.
It's
but
uncanny.
but you've set that up, and you found people that you can actually do that with.
Yeah, and
right?
if I can't book what I call a capable lineup, it doesn't happen.
Right.
Because you can't misrepresent the brand and take an inferior product out there.
Right.
You know, so yeah, but yeah, that's a long discussion there. But yeah, the trying to keep the schedule straight when you're playing in a million bands and studio sessions, interviews with Rob Foster.
So how many guys? And that's the other thing is that like, is what we hope as musicians that we can just go in our practice room, we practice, and then we get called for gigs. But another guy, I can't remember who it was on the show, or Phil Shirelli was talking about that his son plays with Florida Georgia Line. Okay, and so they were talking about that he went to audition for them, and these guys like had him sit in a room and play for like God, 3 minutes or something, and they're like, okay, let's go have a beer, you know, and then, so he played for 3 minutes, and they're like, okay, we've heard enough, you know, and so then they went for an hour and went and talked to the dude, and I was like, that is freaking genius, because we already know, you're fine, you know, you can play, we want to know basically how you're going to be on the road, we want to know, you know, what, you know, do you have a freaking calendar, right? Are you going to be
investing in?
Yes, and the personality-wise, and that I think is one of the huge things that of why these guys aren't working and why these guys are, is because of like general flakiness, not answering the phone, not knowing when the gig is.
Nuts.
Anybody, there's you know, I don't even want to know the number, but 500 musicians in town that are plenty good enough players to play gigs all the time, but they're don't care. They don't care. Because they don't have their crap together. They don't have the calendar.
Communicate with me. Show up on time.
Have good attitude.
Don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
All of those things. And of course, you know, Troubadour Retrievers, but you know, Guy Hodson's a jerk. Brett Belay's a jerk. Bruce Haley's a jerk. Eric Nettle's a jerk. All of them jerks, and that's why we get along so well.
Yeah.
That's part of our...
Craig's definitely a jerk.
Hey, Craig's a jerk. You know, Captain Chaos. No, we all have nicknames for one another, and purposefully, it's like sport to us.
Yeah. That
childish, you know, locker room, you know, jock kind of behavior. You know, making fun, and we do it publicly too. Like,
well, Craig and Boulay, they probably need to be given crap once in a while for something. I don't know what for, but probably for something.
Yeah, you know, it's.
But yeah, man,
it's fun.
So yeah, I'm really glad to talk to people like yourself, because I think you and I are very much on the same page with a lot of this stuff of the just responsibility factor of for your career, and get your crap together and do the work, you know, and really take it kind of into your own hands, and boy, you'd be surprised, you know, what you can do. And really quick to finish up, just talk a little bit about the recording stuff that you were doing, because we haven't really talked about that yet.
Well, I've been obsessed with sound on sound since I was a child. I mean, my father played guitar, and he had a band rehearsing when I was a kid. So he put a guitar in my hands when I was like 4. Yeah, wow. And then I started studying drums with, he's actually my stepdad now, a guy named Ron White, when I was 6. So by the time I was 7 or so, I'd already been actually studying, not just being babysat, drums for a year, and been playing guitar and learning all, you know, Dad taught me, you know, House of the Rising Sun and Ghost Riders in the Sky. Those were the first tunes I ever learned. And so, but you know, when you're 7 years old and you're already playing a couple instruments and you got nobody to play with, so I was given this little tape recorder with the little mic, you know, and so I set that up by the drum set and play into the tape recorder.
What's the tape recorder?
That tape recorder, right?
You're
kids.
Old. No, I'm just kidding.
So then I would, you know, play that tape over a louder system. So drums are coming through those speakers, and play guitar against that, back into the little tape recorder. Right. Then take that tape, put it back there, stand next to the tape recorder and sing, you know. And, you know, of course, every generation is getting horrible, you know. But that was the only way I could make music with myself. And that, a long time ago, teaches you how to get inside of a song. Yeah. You know, because like drummers especially, I can't stand when they, you know, I play drums. You know, and all they're thinking about is drums. It's like, that's the last thing I'm thinking about when I'm drumming is drums. You're driving a bus, and we got a whole bunch of stuff going on here. You got to understand everything's going on. Yeah. So, and everybody does, you know, ideally. So, but that was invaluable starting to do that. So then dual cassette deck, back, you know, still cassettes, blah, blah, blah. Record on one, play to one, record, and, you know, because I know some other people have done this. Then you get your first 4-track cassette. That was late elementary school, and I think all the way through high school. Then my buddy, aforementioned buddy Justin Collette, he got an 8-track cassette. Like, oh wow, we could record 8 things on this cassette. Right. Yeah. And you know, so that took it to another level, and then years pass, and finally at age 40, I buy a house, and and now, of course, get into the more current things, the DAW, essentially, recording software. The industry standard is Pro Tools, but I use Cubase.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, so that's a whole other ballgame now because you're buying mics constantly and all this kind of stuff. And learning this software, and that's why I say, maybe teaching it more in school, because I would have loved to have learned that, but there wasn't time for those courses with these courses and whatever. But
there's definitely schools that have sound degrees. And
there's one in Phoenix. Actually, Justin went to it.
I know North Texas is big for that.
North Texas is big, everything music.
Right.
Best drumline, best jazz school.
Man, you said something interesting that I've thought about too, is that, so when I'm dealing with all my sight readers, their whole crap and all of their energy is out, right? Because they're reading this page and they aren't feeling this internal thing, and I don't even know how to describe it, but I know when I close my eyes and I play by ear, everything is like in, like my whole energy level is in. You just mentioned that when people are drumming, they're kind of doing that in sort of thing. But when you and I play, we're like listening out. And like you were talking about, I'm not even worried about what's in here right now. I'm listening to all the crap out there. And that's probably another one of those, 100% one of those clueless, falls in that clueless category of some people that they just don't listen at all to what else is going on stage. They've turned up to 7 and they've, do you think that's a huge problem with generally lower level musicians?
I mean, your finer musicians, even if they're not. I'll give you a example, because we talk about this in ourselves all the time. Guy Hodson, who I've played with for years and stuff. He's not like a studied drummer and technically, but he put on the headphones and played to rock records and stuff. So in certain settings, there's he wouldn't be able to hang. Stick a chart in front of him, or something actually written and that kind of stuff. But when it comes time to playing these songs, he plays the song, and it's ideal. You know, so I'll take that any day over. Well, I could do all this stuff. Yeah. It's like, well, but this song doesn't have all that stuff. Yeah. So why don't you play the song? Yeah. And you could sing like a bird. Most of the finer musicians I know play more than one instrument. Of course, I'm known for doing that because I chose to kind of play the whole rhythm section. I wish I were better at that. Yeah. And studied that more. But so that's why I really get inside of a song, because I understand everything that's going on. But I've got some friends with some weird doubles. Forrest Stewart played bass with Ida all that time and whatnot, and I hire him to do a lot of recording sessions on bass because he's awesome. But his other instrument is horn and F, French horn. Yeah. Freedom horn.
Yeah,
that's a weird double.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah. Those are very different instruments. Yeah. That's weird.
But that's certainly going to broaden some horizon on the other. Yeah. His bass solos are lines. They're horn lines. Yeah. He doesn't play like everybody else's bass solos. He plays lines. Yeah. Well, he plays this other more linear melodic instrument. Right. Right. So that's what I mean. Tapping into side to other stuff. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. I
not
like
just
that
play your
too,
instrument.
That there's some people that are just plain listening, and other people are just in their own element. And I know that this happens a lot when we go into like country, when you try to get somebody else to a person who's not kind of a country guy and try to get them to play country. Well, the beat is not the problem. It's that they need to just back the hell off. They need to play what they're supposed to be playing and not like a drummer, fill every 4 bars of the entire freaking song. Mm-hmm. And that is one of the things that does drive me nuts, because we've talked about this on the show too, of when I was in my 8-piece country band, we had violin, steel, and guitar all filling in that space.
Oh, yeah.
Sing, and then you got your bar space.
Boy,
sing, bar space. And then we would have the bass and the drummer putting fills. So now we've got 5 people filling in that little tiny,
Charles Ives.
Yes, and so like that was one of the things that kind of does annoy me, and it's better when you guys have like a trio thing because there's so much room there. That's my opinion, that you can fill more when it's less people. I've heard some other people argue about that, but when you have more people in your band, you need to like fill 0 times, and, and that just sucks because the drummer is just sitting there boom chick, but
Always,
I'm sorry, dude,
always be musically sensitive to what's going on. Yes, you play differently in a trio than you play in a large ensemble, and different rooms. A lot of drummers again are really guilty of this. Small room, you don't beat the crap out of the drums. Can you not play softer? In a big room, hit them.
Yes.
Don't be a wuss.
Yeah.
We need it, right? To be that range, and you were talking about musically too, filling space. And I've hardly been able to experience like playing like an arena or that kind of stuff. But think about music that sounds good in an arena versus a club.
Yes.
It's got to be sparse.
Yes.
When you have an instant, 15-second reverb, over the whole facility, some music's just going to be cacophony. It's not going to work, But yeah, one way or another, just at all times, be musically sensitive. Do what serves the song.
Yeah.
Right. Get over yourself and do.
And that's
what
the problem,
serves the
right?
song.
That's the problem.
Lord knows I show off. I'm guilty.
Yeah, they're
especially
in
live.
Me mode instead of
You know me. A lot of look at me. Look what I can do. I worked hard for this. Blah blah. Right, just showing off. And you can get away with that to a certain degree.
But what happens right after that? You stop in me mode, right?
Yeah,
and then the singer comes, and you know what times, because there's times to do that, and there's times not
Absolutely, it's your turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and so like I know that in the last little bit I've been a lot more. I don't know if I do it all the time, but I know that I'm thinking about that a lot, probably too much. That I probably could even come out more in those moments and shred harder when I'm supposed to, and then. But like I know that I'm thinking about that a lot, and it really is frustrating when that cluelessness happens and they don't, there's a player that doesn't. We're not on the same wavelength with that. Harmonica player. I'm kind of over harmonica, dude. Since I've been in Kansas City, I'm
I only say it because I can't even think of anyone because I don't know that many harmonica players, but. Yeah, some get it and some don't. But yeah, there's something about that instrument where they're just like playing full throttle all the time, and it's like, what?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it.
It's like this is a verse, the singer's singing. Maybe find a hole and would just fill the hole, but it's just a tiny hole. Come on now.
One thing, and I guess so. We're probably about wrapping up here. The one thing to go back to what you were saying about the business side of it. I think one thing that you maybe did, and you can correct me this, is that none of us are good at that kind of stuff as musicians. We're not good at keeping track of our own crap, and we're creative people in general, and so all the business side is already really hard for us. But one thing that is helpful sometimes is when you do have a girlfriend and you can go, you can have again the non-cluelessness of knowing you're bad at this. Secondly, knowing you need to do something about it, and then third, going and asking for help if you can't, and like, which some people, they go get a manager if they're big, if they're sort of big time, and they go, I don't want to deal with this. I want somebody else to do it.
Oh, that would be lovely, but yeah.
But it's also the willingness willingness to step up and go, obviously do the work, but obviously the willingness to not be lazy and go to find somebody who can help you with this.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think about that, if some people just are unwilling.
Well, the kind of person there that inevitably will drive me nuts is the kind that will sit there and point at someone's success, be like, how come they're doing that and I'm not? And it's like, well, they're doing it. You're just sitting there talking about it, but you're not doing it. You can talk about it all you want, but... And so especially to be envious of someone, it's like, this is something my girlfriend talks about. If you're going to be envious of someone, you got to take the crap too. You can't just handpick the good stuff,
straight
So,
out. Yeah.
and I see that a lot, you know, this kind of thing. Why are they successful? Why, you know, because they're not even very good or that kind of stuff. It's like, well, that doesn't matter. They're doing the work to get there, and obviously it's working, or they're, you know, because this is a business. In bars and stuff, if people aren't drinking, it really doesn't matter. You're back to get over yourself. You know,
that's a huge argument.
I heard you and Craig
yeah,
talk about
yeah,
that, and
yeah.
he's absolutely right on that.
Yeah.
You know, and even the whole Troubadour Retrievers thing. We don't make set lists. We're a jukebox. We play. What does the audience want to hear? It's a cover band.
Yeah. Right.
You know, get over yourself. And instead, you know, it's like, oh, I just want to play stuff that nobody wants to hear. Okay, good luck with that. You know, and I get that, as you know, because you know, I'm listening to the musical box by Genesis on my radio.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Like the stuff that you have to actually be a Genesis fan to know.
Right.
30-minute epic.
Dream Theater would be
Dream Theater and Rush. I mean, that's what
Rush,
I personally dig. You
Right.
know, I listen to Chick Corea and you know, but on my own stuff. But it's like, and so it is kind of surrendering, selling out, you know, to the dumbing down of America as it is in terms of artistic things, all things artistic.
See, that's the argument that they're going to say, right? That these jazz guys are going to be like, well, I'm not selling out. I'm not going to sell my soul.
And they do sell that. I'm like,
you know, I'm going to have integrity, right? Is what they'll say. And like,
enjoy flipping that burger, man.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
I would rather, as much as I'll cringe, but but Mustang Sally, let's kick its ass.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah,
because
let's tear
that's
the crap
what they
out of
want to
Mustang
hear.
Sally today. Yeah.
They haven't heard it a million times like we have, or played it, but you know, it's like it's special to them.
Yeah, and you guys
Why
are
not
going to do
give
it
them that?
Yeah.
Why deny them that? They're, you know,
Yeah.
this is about them.
Right.
This isn't about you. Do your job, get paid, go home.
Yeah.
And listen to Dream Theater.
Yeah, right.
So,
and you said something too. I love that you said that about people. And you know, we could go all day. You know what this means for our world, I guess, about the putting everything, you know, the problem on everyone else. You know, about it's the club owners are just, you know, greedy, This band, I love that you said that. They're not even good. All of us hear that like 90 times a day from other people. You know, they're not even good players.
It's not really for us to decide.
You know, yeah, and so you know, go whoop them then. Right? Go do it. Go kick their butts,
or join them.
Yeah.
Be supportive of them, you know, because actually I do think right now, and I've noticed by and large, the Kansas City scene, it's generally pretty supportive of one another.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing. I love that. You know, because I've seen times where it was more cutthroat, and it's like, why?
I've heard New York's not like that. New York is pretty cutthroat, you know, and KC is,
get over yourself. You know.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. We're probably wrapping up. Tell them
you said that 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, I know, dude. I kind of.
We can go on and on.
We could go on and on. Tell them your two things that you got going one more time. The Troubadour Retrievers.
Troubadour Retrievers is a band that I booked. That's on troubadourretrievers.com and Facebook and all that business. Beauty and the McBeast. That's McBeast with 2 E's, since it's a play on my name. With Crystal Gatewood. So that project's only been going for about a year, and it's been highly successful.
Yeah.
So I give that credit to her. Special Forces, Salute to 38 Special. It's a 38 Special tribute band. We mostly play out of town, but we are playing Lee Summit Fest this year, or Oktoberfest in Lee Summit. And you know, I'm a hired gun. You know, I hate to, what's a nice word for? Let's say whore. You know, but I have to, you know, to pay bills.
Yeah.
You know, but being the things we talked about, you know, okay, you're proficient at multiple instruments. That's pretty advantageous. Multiple styles on all said instruments. Show up on time. Don't be a jerk. You know, be prepared. You know. You know, that goes, I'm an Eagle Scout.
Mm-hmm.
More nerd stuff.
Be prepared.
Be prepared. Hey, it's good stuff.
It's a big thing, though. I know for myself, I love the idea of being able to hang with all sorts of stuff, at least barely be able to, you know, have some jazz tunes you could actually call, know some rock tunes, know crazy and you're cheating hard, you know some typical country tunes, and so when you get on stage you're not completely screwed. You know, I think that's really neat to be able
it keeps
to
you
sort of do
employable.
that. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm looking at your real book over here. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, be able to hang with that.
Yeah, right. At least some of the tunes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But well, cool, man.
Yeah, this is the cool thing you're doing. I've been watching some of the interviews. I know you asked me about doing this a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm busy,
Right.
I'm busy, which is ultimately true.
Yeah.
Because of everything we've talked about.
Right. Yeah.
But I was like, man, I gotta do this. So so you just contacted me. I had I have a recording client that I usually meet on Tuesdays, who had just had surgery. So he was out, and I was like, there's a window, and it worked for you.
Yeah.
So,
well, thanks for making the effort, man. I appreciate
It's
it.
a cool thing.
Thanks.
It's a cool thing you're doing. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm trying to just talk to a lot of people, and I like a lot of different music, different kinds of music. So I've met kind of a lot of different scenes in town, and teaching people, jazz guys, the blues scene, you know, country guys. So it's been fun, and I hope to continue it and get
Tons
some
of
good
amazing musicians in KC.
There's a lot of them.
A lot of them.
I know
Awesome.
my buddy Brad Williams, when he was playing in our band, I'm like, oh, yep, that's all the drummers, we're screwed. Or that's all the bass players there are in town, we're screwed, there's no more. And then he brings like 5 more of them out of the woodworks that nobody's ever heard of. You know, there's just so many great people here, and we have a really good scene. So I wanted to kind of, you know, share that with a lot of people over the internet. But, yeah, well, that's the show. This has been KC Music Talk. This is Scotty McBee. Thanks for coming,
Absolutely, brother.
Yeah, but he's, like you said, he's got this really fun jam at Jerry's Bait Shop. So come out and
Every Wednesday.
And Troubadour Retrievers and the Beauty and the McBeast. So yeah, check out all those things he's got going on. So we'll be back next time with some other person talking about stuff. So get out of here. See you guys later.
Go practice.
Yeah, go practice. That's exactly right.